silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away from it.
I made a living in very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue society.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in black and white, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thanks for watching us, whether you're in our 3 million homes on the CW or on Pelican Broadcasting in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette. And whether you're watching us, our handles will be up here. We're on Truth Social. We're on the usual suspects, you know, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, but we're also on Rumble and on YouTube. I covered CPAC, my show did in 21 in July in Dallas. And when I put the show of Donald Trump up there and Dr. Ben Carson, they took it down automatically, so we went to Rumble. We only put certain shows on YouTube because it is censoring, just like Elon Musk has shown. There he is on Twitter. Today I have a friend of the show. He's been here. It was 23 months ago that you were here. It was in March, and it's almost March now of 21. And I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm going to give you some things about him. And if you don't know his name, shame on you in the state of Louisiana. This is a man who was an entrepreneur. Mother gave him $7,500 loan. He saw an opportunity out there with cabooses, I think, to make shipping cart containers and for people who were on the river to have portable living spaces. He got $7,500 from his mother. Several years later, 200 employees later, $23 million later, he bought his mother a home. And that is quite a testament to I hate to say it, but a hell of an entrepreneur who can do something like that. But after Katrina, he saw some hurting going on in this state and the response. So he ran for Plaquemine Parish president, and he won. And in 2015, he ran against our mayor here, Kip Holden, Mayor Holden. I hope you're doing better, Mayor Holden. And he beat Willie Brown. So he started the pardoning of the Crawfish in 2017, and now we've got a trail here, civil rights trail, statewide in the state of Louisiana. Go look up who that is and tell the TV, and I'll know told them or not. So come on back to Dianne Andrews in black and white. Hello, my name is Dianne Andrews. This documentary you're about to see is about the Silver Dollar Group of the Ku Klux Klan. And many people will say, who is that? Who are they? I never heard of them in one Klan. Back in the 1920s, there were 2 million Klans people in the United States, the most ever. By the 1950s and 60s, there were fewer. But this group, or sect, was the most heinous in the country in the 60s and 70s. So the Silver Dollar Group did not wear hoods. They were not for profit. Many people don't know that the Klan was a for-profit organization. That is why most of the people who ran the Klan were the leaders in the cities. They were your doctors, they were your lawyers, they were your deputy sheriffs, they were your sheriffs. And they were the ones who collected many of the profits on the Klan. So was all of it hate, or was some of it greed, or were there a lot of both? And I'm sure they were both. But the Silver Dollar Group didn't wear the hoods. They didn't come out and burn the crosses in the neighborhoods. They just killed people. So today you're going to hear a story about them, about a man who integrated the school in Faraday High School, how the Silver Dollar Group leader, Sonny Taylor, planted a bomb in his grandmother's house. Roy Ennis was in that house. That was the Congress of Racial Equality founder. And thanks to all the powers that be, it did not go off. Deborah Taylor asked Mr. David Wadley to humbly forgive her for what her father did. And he humbly accepts and tells her as they hug, and you will see this, and he says, it is not your fault. You are not responsible for what your father's vile nature was. He had even tried to rape his own daughter, Deborah. There's a book, The Devil's Walking, that you will hear me talk with Stanley Nelson about on the gravesite, basically, of Frank Mars, a shoe shop owner who was burned to death by the deputy sheriff, member of the Silver Dollar Group of the Klan, because he refused to continue to do his work free on his shoes. This was the only shoe repair shop within Concordia Parish, and it was owned by Mr. Frank Mars, a black man for 20, 30 years. And he was burned to death, locked into that door and burned to the ground. You will see that a hallowed ground that we go out to and talk about what happened to him. He lived 4 days, enough to tell the story of who killed him, even though he was burned 99.9% of his body. We also go back to Faraday High, which today has 4 white kids, which in 1968 had no black kids. This story is about telling the story, the true impact of the Klan, but it's also about a person named Deborah Taylor who showed love to go around and try to find and bring some solace to those people who our father had brought so much pain and frustration to. So it's about love, and it's about the love from people like Miss Deborah Taylor. Well, most of you all probably knew who it was, but if you didn't, this is our Lieutenant Governor, Billy Nungesser. You all probably remember our Lieutenant Governor from being on here about 2 years ago. I want to thank you for being back on with us. And I want to tell you, that really caught my eye. Tell me what that alligator is.
Well, that's a little pocket placer that a young girl gave me at a school where they raise money to put special needs playgrounds in our state parks.
Oh, wow.
And they are helping us produce the first one in Fontainebleau. And then once we perfect it, we will put special needs playgrounds at all of our parks. And we're also adding wheelchairs on tracks. So if you want to reserve that chair so you can go off the beaten path into the woods and see the deer and animals, this wheelchair will take you there. So doing a lot of great things at the parks for our special needs community. And this school has really helped raise some money to make that happen.
Now, I know that oil, gas, agriculture, Dr. Strand has been on several times. We just did a show a couple months ago. I think that was his 3rd time on, I think, Dr. Strand. But anyway, and 4th is tourism, which is under your umbrella of state parks, libraries, the Louisiana seafood marketing promotion, and what else is there?
So the tourism industry over the last actually 7 years, but 5 years prior to COVID, we had a record-breaking year each year.
Right.
In 2019, over 53 million people visited Little Louisiana, left behind $1.9 billion in taxes you and I didn't have to pay. That's over $1,100 per Louisiana family. So it's an incredible economic engine for Louisiana. And it was the 4th biggest since COVID had slipped to 5. 2021, we had a little over 41 million visitors. 22, we don't have the numbers in yet, but I believe 2023 will be back to setting another record.
What about, Lieutenant Governor, what about Billy, what about the issue of New Orleans? We have 3 of the top 10 crime-ridden cities in the nation per capita. Well, Shreveport, Baton Rouge, and Shreveport.
We've been working for the last couple of years trying to get the French Quarter to manage it separate from the city. There's not enough voters there, I don't think, to ever make the city make it the shining star it should be to help all of Louisiana tourism.
Right.
So we've been working. We opened an office in the back of the Cabildo on the street lights, putting cameras in every street light pole to help catch the criminals. But I'll tell you, as we saw most recently, where the DA did not keep these people in jail with guns.
The George Soros sponsored DA.
You know, most of the crime, less than 20% of the population is committing 80% of the crime.
Right.
So if we could keep the criminals off the streets, it would be a lot safer. Now, I believe in rehabilitation, but I also believe in keeping you locked up until you are rehabilitated
and the
streets are safe. So I think sometimes it's got to get so bad to wake the people up that support those politicians that don't do what they should do to keep us safe. And I think we're seeing that. We're seeing it with the recall of the mayor of New Orleans, the outcry of people upset about the DA letting these kids go home.
Right.
And look, I don't care if you're 16 or 60. If you shoot somebody, they're just as dead.
That's right.
And if you're going to carry a gun and you're not going to follow the laws, you need to go to jail, no matter how old you are, until you can respect human life.
When what people, as we know, may not realize, we don't want to take legal guns from people. 80% of all the crimes are done with murders with illegal guns. These are illegal guns.
Well, and taking it away and letting them go back home, you don't think they're going to go steal another gun?
Right.
I mean, that's no deterrent in any way, shape, or form. And something's got to change, because I think enough of the people are outraged that we're going to see a change.
Do you think that recall will happen? Because they tried to do it in California, but it didn't happen.
They believe they got the signatures, and if the signatures are the people that are on the rolls that shouldn't be, because they either died or moved away or taken off, they should have a well enough cushion. But we'll know in a few days.
Now, is it automatic if they have enough signatures? Is there a new vote? Does the assistant mayor become mayor?
The governor has to call an election. And then, of course, the people will vote. And if they vote to recall her, she's recalled. She has the right to run again if she wants to. But then there'll be another election to elect a new mayor. In the meantime, the city council will appoint one of the at-large to be an interim mayor. What
do you think? And I know that, this is out of your bailiwick, but you talked about it, the DA. That's happening all over this country, that the DAs, New York, St. Louis, Chicago, they're letting them out, and people are not aware of what's really going on.
Well, it also is a slap in the face to law enforcement.
It is.
You risk your life to go out there to keep us safe.
That's right.
And if you got to arrest the same person over and over again for the same, you get tired. You're risking your life, especially if that person's carrying a gun.
Right.
That this isn't the day they're going to decide to shoot the police.
And I think they've killed almost 80 or 90 this year.
And you wonder and listen, I don't think, you've got bad people in every job.
That's right.
But it's gotten to the point now where every time a police officer shoots somebody, we want to put them in prison.
That's right.
Even before that the justice is served through the court system, we've made them guilty. And it's, as we know, it's harder and harder to find people willing to take the job as a police officer.
That's right. And they show a snippet of what happened, not the full footage, right? And to it make people just go crazy and go out and start rioting and burning down. Like Black Lives Matter in 2020, they burned down $2 billion worth of America. And black people may not know this, but the people who started Black Lives Matter are Marxists. And if you don't know what that means, look it up. Karl Marx had started communism. And if you think you want to be a communist, this is my talking, not to look to the governor. If you think you want to be a communist, you show me anywhere it ever worked. I just did a show with some Ukrainians, a man who escaped 728 miles through Ukraine, through the Russian-occupied Ukraine. 82 years old, him and 6 other people. And we were talking about the Holy Damar, that a lot of people don't know, that they've starved 5 million people in Ukraine to death.
You don't know how valuable freedom is until you lose it.
That's right. And you know what she said?
Once you lose it,
it's over. Look at Venezuela. Look, I had some Cubans come on the show from Cuba. Look at Cuba. And look at Bolsonaro down in Brazil. They just, they said that guy really won. They took him out, threw him out of the country, basically. We're the only democracy left in Americas.
Yeah, a lot of young kids don't realize how important this freedom is.
It is. They don't know what it is. They've never been anywhere, and they've always had freedom. So they don't realize once it's gone. Go talk to some black people on this civil rights thing and what black people went through. We didn't have real freedom. But I do tell people, that was a different time. And when I do this, the Silver Dollar Group of the Klan, I'm doing a documentary that's going to a film festival. I talk about love, because Deborah Taylor, that woman I showed you today, wanted to apologize to the man her father tried to kill of the Silver Dollar Group of the Klan. That talks about how we have changed. We're not there yet, but we've come a long, long way from the 70s.
I tell you, the Civil Rights Trail, uncovering so many heroes, people that started right here in Louisiana that I didn't know about.
Right.
And that started from a visit to Arizona on a tourism conference where I learned that we were the only southern state that didn't have a trail.
What, 2.5 years ago, Lieutenant Governor?
It's 3 years. About
3 years ago.
Yeah.
I didn't know we had one.
Well, it's slowly, you know, we put up a couple markers, I think next week in Lafayette. But we're still doing the research and finding and uncovering new things every day.
I know in Mississippi it's a big deal, that trail. I was over when I did the Silver Dollar Group, because it was Natchez, Faraday area and all up there. They were having a trail ride, and there were people from Germany who were there from all over the world.
Well, the trail starts in Alabama through Mississippi, all the southern states. And since we started this journey, when we started, Louisiana only had one site on the National Trail. Since then, we've added 9 sites to the National Trail.
Right.
And when we're through, Louisiana will probably have more sites on the National Trail than any other state.
Wow.
Just because of the things that started here or formulated here with the march and the different things. So it's a pretty interesting thing that we've started to uncover. And it's really going to be a great thing for tourism and educational.
It is educational for people to know. I don't know if you saw 12 years of slavery. That was in Louisiana.
Right.
And the white guy who came down to get him out of there. I want people to realize, say, me being black, and that most of the people were good people. Even with the Klan, the people that were in the Klan, it was not just about hatred. It was about money. I didn't know until Stanley Nelson, who wrote Devil's Walker, when I was interviewing him, he said the people at the top made money. The Klan paid dues. I didn't know it was about money and hatred. Half of them were probably more money than hatred.
You know, you mentioned the movies. This year, the legislature will vote on renewing the historical tax credits to the movie industry.
Yeah.
It's up.
Yeah.
You know, we got it approved last time for 5 years. So people.
And that's under you, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not under me, but it's important to tourism. And we just did another updated study to show the value of the film industry to tourism. And it's over $1 billion.
Really?
People went to New Orleans because of NCIS New Orleans. The Essence Fest had their best year ever when that movie Girls Trip came out.
Yeah.
People are still looking for the zip line on Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
So we showed in this study the value not only to the people that work in the film industry, but that it has great value to the tourism industry whenever a movie makes it, especially when they make reference to the town or city where they film. So that's something that we want to make sure we continue to promote and give the legislators the tools they need to know the full value of that tax credit when it goes up for a vote this year to renew it.
I hope so, because I think that happened under Jindal, didn't he? He's the one who really
Well, it went away for 1 year, and we really lost a lot of that business. We brought it back with a cap, and then knowing that not have it come up every year was important, because if you go out and film a pilot TV show, you got to go back and sell it, and then if it's successful, you got to then produce it. Well, it takes more than a year to do that.
Right.
So to know you're locked in for that credit for 5 years is so important, and that's what's up. We're in the 5th year of that 5-year. So we're going to ask the legislature to renew it for 5 years.
Oh, I hope it gets done. I got 2 documentaries out here and about to do a 3rd. So.
Well, it really helps with the investment in the movie industry.
It really, really does.
Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Hello, I am Dianne Andrews. Thanks for joining us on Why Blacks Can't Swim. This is going to talk to you about the lost part of civil rights history, the wade-ins. If we look back into our history, all of us have heard about the sit-ins, where blacks were at the cafes and pulled out and weren't allowed to eat at those cafes. We've also heard of some of the swim-ins. I was contacted a few years ago by a black doctor, Dr. Gilbert Mason Jr. His father was the first black doctor to have hospital privileges in the city of Biloxi, Mississippi. He also started and formed the first chapter of the NAACP there with Medgar Evers, who was in Jackson, Mississippi. In 1959, Dr. Gilbert Mason Sr. decided to go on the beaches and walk and wade in the water. We have all heard the old spiritual, wade in the water. That was for Moses, who parted the Red Sea for the Israelites to escape out of Egypt to freedom. In 1831, Tice David, who was in Kentucky, ran into the water. He waded into the water, running from his slave master with dogs running behind him. Tice David swam across the Ohio River. Ohio was a free state, and Tice David lived the rest of his life as a free man. In this part 1 of our documentary on civil rights and swimming, you're going to see, because of Biloxi, Mississippi, the beaches, the swimming pools, and public swimming facilities were opened up in the United States. It did not happen until 1968 by the Supreme Court. So come join us on this part 1 of our journey on how blacks could swim and the lost part of civil rights history. Let's get back down to a little different business. When you were on in 21, you said you may run for governor if the opportunity arose, were what your words were. So tell the audience, what are your plans?
Well, I decided, I made a commitment to decide by my birthday, which was January 10th, in fairness to everyone else that was talking about running for lieutenant governor, I needed to make a decision so they could decide if they wanted to stay in the race against me or look at some other opportunity. And I made that choice. I prayed about it, sat up 3 nights. And I'll tell you, I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I didn't think right now was the time to change leaders in the tourism industry, because even if the next person did better than me, there'd be some hiccups in making that transition. And 250,000 families rely on the tourism industry to feed their families.
Wow. Wow.
It's a big business.
Yeah.
And coming out of COVID, we know a lot of family businesses, mom and pop businesses, have used up their life savings to keep their business open. The next 2 to 3 years are going to be critical to them businesses making it. We've got to roll up our sleeves and do absolutely everything physically possible to get as many people to visit as many places as they can. Every town and city, every restaurant, shops, attractions. We've got to do all we can to get them back making money. In a good year, many businesses fail. So ultimately, that was the decision to stay the course while we're on this roll, coming off the Rose Parade, the Macy's Parade, knowing we probably going to have our best Mardi Gras ever this past one when the numbers are back.
Over 1 million people, I heard the mayor say.
Yeah, it's the numbers are going to be incredible. Yeah. And it's not just New Orleans. We promote Mardi Gras in every town and city around Louisiana. And a lot of them rely on that shot in the arm to really get them through tough times. So that was the deciding fact. And plus, having 4 other Republicans in the race, you're going to get the far right and the far left in the runoff, and a lot of candidates are going to be middled out. And I run the risk of being one of those candidates in the middle. Had it been 1, 2, or 3 candidates running, I'd have had a lot better opportunity to get into the runoff, where I felt if I got to the runoff, we would be victorious. But like I said, I love what I do. I'll make the same commitment I made to the last governor to work with whoever's governor for the greater good of Louisiana. And
is Jeff the only person in the Republican side who has decided to announce Jeff Landry, Lieutenant?
Schroeder, Sharon Hewitt.
That's right.
And
Richard Nelson.
Richard Nelson is also a candidate in. So there's 4 Republicans. There's no Democrat announced yet. We suspect Sean Wilson will announce soon. He's resigned his position. And I think you're going to see some other people get in that race. Whenever you've got an open seat, it attracts a lot of people. And I think some people may be waiting to see who else gets in. But I think you'll see a full slate of candidates for every statewide race.
Will you put your name in for one? Will you support somebody before it's over?
I think it's important for me to worry about my race. I have a race to run myself. So I won't be supporting anyone until I'm, and if I was fortunate enough to win the first primary and see who's in the runoff, that is a possibility. But I've got to work with whoever's elected very closely, not only because I want to do all I can to help people in Louisiana, but it's important to have that working relationship.
It is. And we talked about that last, some people that called you Orion. We talked about that in your last show. You got to work with who you got to work with. Democrat, Republican, Independent, whoever, to make the things happen for these people.
We got to do better at doing that, working together.
I'm going to ask you one last question, and you can tell me if you don't think it's relevant. But during COVID, we learned a lot of things that are at the mayor's, dynasty to make the decisions, right? What happened in New Orleans, you got to have a mask, you got to have your passport, you got to have this before and a lot of restaurant people lost money. They're talking about now a treaty that the WHO, the World Health Organization, is 85% done and people don't know about it. It's a treaty where the WHO can come into any country and decide what the pandemic responses should be. Should the schools be closed in the United States? Everybody would do the same thing per country.
I don't think they can ever do that in America. And I like the idea of the local government deciding and it going up the food chain where the state needs to step in and help out. And then, of course, after a major hurricane, where the federal government steps in. But I think the local school boards, governments, it's always nice if we can all be on the same page.
Yeah.
When I had talked, the governor went from phase 2 to phase 3. We had met with the mayor of New Orleans, tried her to get on board with the state plan. That didn't go so well. But I think whenever you can speak with one voice for the state, it helps us open our doors up a little sooner to tourism. Even when you had to wear the mask, getting people to travel around and visit places to try to keep the doors open was important to me to help as many of those small businesses. That's why we bought Louisiana Feed Your Soul mask, gave them out at the welcome centers, encouraging people to wear it so we could go from phase 2 to phase 3 and then open our doors back up to the world.
And I thought that the governor did a pretty good job of the phases and opening it up, but I don't agree with some of the mayors.
No,
but that's just me.
Everybody wanted to have their own say, but I really wish we could have. And we learned from past. And hopefully going forward, if that ever happens again, I hope it doesn't, the mayors will sit down with the governor and we'll come up with a plan that works for the whole state. So you can visit Louisiana if you wear your mask or whatever it is and still spend money and do things in Louisiana.
Because that really could hurt tourism.
Oh, it did. It set us back. And where other states were opening up, we saw a lot go to Florida.
And just like the movie industry, it went to Georgia, after that happened with the tax credit. That went over to Atlanta.
Sometimes we're our own worst enemy.
We are, a lot of times. Thank you and good luck,
Always.
Lieutenant
Thank you
Governor.
so much.
It was great seeing you again.
Great to be with you.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Oh, I will say this before I get off. I did interview Mr. Guillory, Lieutenant Governor. He's still running.
Yes, he is.
Yes. And he told me you are friends. So that's interesting. But anyway, good luck to both my friends.
Thank you.
All right.